soda you want, right? You can have Diet Coke. You can have Diet Cherry Coke. You can have caffeine-free Coke. You could have old-style Coke. You could have the new Coke, right? You could have Pepsi One if you want. I don't know why I threw in Pepsi, but you have multiple choices. And for a lot of us, we think, you know, if we have such a multiple choice in this world, why can't we have a multiple choice of God? Why does there just have to be one way? And so we fail to ask the question, Jesus, you said you're the only way. Is that true? And I just want to just submit to you this morning, that's an honest and real question that we should ask. And we should find out the answer to that. In Mark chapter 10, there's this story of this young man who comes to Jesus. And on the surface, this guy looks like he has it all together. He's got money. He's a good kid. He's one of these kids that, as a mother, you'd probably want to bring home to meet your daughter. He's that good of a young man. And I just want you to notice this guy. He comes to Jesus, and he asks him a huge question. Notice on your outline, in Mark chapter 10, Jesus was started on his way, and a man ran up to him, and he fell on his knees. And notice what he says. Good teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What do I have to do to go to heaven, Jesus? I love this. Jesus just follows up with a question. Why do you call me good? Jesus answered. No one is good except God alone. Now, I just want to point out something. Jesus was not saying that he was not God by asking the question. He just wanted this young man to understand who he was talking to. And so he comes to him and he says, Jesus, what is it that I have to do to inherit eternal life? And I would just ask you this morning, do you know what it would take for you to go to heaven? What does it take to go to heaven? And that's a great question. I love this question because this guy was so right on. Jesus, what is the most important thing that I have to do? Notice number 2. The second reason we give God our leftovers is this, because we have become distracted. We've become distracted. We're afraid to ask the question. For some of us, we just don't really want to know the answer, and so we don't ask. But for others, we have become distracted. And I just want to say this, that there's a lot of good things in life that can distract you. Isn't that true? It doesn't even have to be a bad thing. You can have hobbies and things you love to do that are fun, and you like to do things and go places and see things, and yet it can become a distraction from finding out who God really is in your life, what he wants to do in your life. It can become such a distraction that you might miss out on the very reason that we're created. You know, one of the things that I'm noticing today is one of the biggest distractors that I see is that people say things like this. You know, if I'm just good, if I just do my best to live a good life and I don't hurt anybody, and it turns out that this God thing is real in the very end, he'll get it. He'll understand why I didn't follow him, or why I just didn't ask the question. Why? Because I was distracted. I want you to notice the story. The story continues with this young man coming to Jesus, and he says, what must I do to inherit the kingdom of heaven? Notice what he says. Jesus responds, and he says, you know the commandments, right? You know the commands. What commands? The 10 commandments. You guys heard of that, right? Right. There's 10, right? Right? There's not 11. There's 10. And he says, you know the commandments. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not give false testimony. Do not defraud. Honor your father and mother. He didn't obviously give them all, but notice what he says. The kid responds to Jesus and he says, teacher, he declared, all of these I have kept since I was a what? Boy. Jesus, how do I get to heaven? Jesus says, you know the commandments. The kid says, I've done them all. I've done all that list that you just think, I've done it all, Jesus. I love it when people say, you know, I don't need church. I don't need God. I don't need to go and follow him all the time. I just do the 10 commandments. Have you ever had anybody do that to you, say something like that to you? I love to mess them up with this question. Really, the 10 commandments, can you name them all? And then I just stand there and just wait. What do you think the answer is? Do you think they can name them all? No. How many of you guys can name them all in here? No, don't answer. Jesus, I've done everything that on the surface looks like I'm going to do what your will is. God, I've done the 10 commandments. The third reason that we give God our leftovers is this: because we desire our own independence. We desire our own independence. We try to live a good life, but what life are we living? The life we want to live. Isn't it true that independence can become an idol in our lives? Would you agree with that? Yes or no? This means yes, this means no. Yeah, you guys awake? Okay, good. Good. Independence is one of those things that's idolized even here in America. We love talking about it. We have a declaration of what? Independence, right? We love writing songs about it. 3 songs that came to my mind. Leave Me Alone, This Is My Life. You guys remember that song? Take me back to the 80s. Here's one more. I Did It My Way. Take you back a little bit further, right? Frank Sinatra wrote that song. I Did It My Way, right? Okay, here's one. Here's Bobby Brown singing, It's My Prerogative, I Can Do What I Want to Do. You guys remember that song? Right? We sing songs about it. We love it. We idolize it. We think, you know what? Nobody's going to tell me how to live. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. That's just the way it is. And you know, this guy that came to Jesus, he was not very far off from where we're at today. I want you to notice this. This man came to Jesus in the same way. And notice this. After saying, Jesus, you know, I've done everything. Jesus looked at him and loved him. He looked at him. I love this. He loved him. He genuinely loved him. And notice this. One thing you lack, he said. Go and sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. Now, can you imagine you being this guy and standing there in front of Jesus and saying, you know, Jesus, I've done my best. I followed the 10 commandments. I've honored my mother and father. You know, I didn't cheat on anybody. I'm a good guy. And Jesus looks at you and he says, I want you to do one more thing. And for you, it's going to be different from this young guy. For this young guy, money was the most important thing in his life. And you're going to see that in a second. But for some of you, there's other things that take place of God. And you're comfortable with that. And it's okay because you're doing what you want. You're living an independent life. Jesus says, go and sell everything you have. And you're standing there before Jesus and he tells you, whatever is most important to me, I want you to give that up. And then come and follow me. Can you imagine Frank Sinatra saying that to Jesus when he met him? You know, Jesus, I just did it my way. Right? Can you imagine somebody saying, you know, I can do what I want to do, Jesus. I had the freedom to do that. And Jesus is going to look at that person and say, huh? Are you kidding me? You know, I gave you everything. I gave you life. I gave you health. I gave you your job. I gave you time. Whatever it is, I gave you everything. I gave you your abilities. And you're just going to use them for yourself? This guy had a decision to make. Jesus says, look, I know that you want heaven. I know you want to get there. But there's something in your way that's more important than God in your life. And he tells him, go and get rid of that. But then you come and follow me. God never created us to be independent of each other. He never created us to be independent of our relationship with him. He's always desired that in our life. We weren't meant to go through life alone. Notice number 4, the fourth reason we give God our leftovers is this: because we fear total commitment. This is just one of those things that people struggle with.